7 years of silence, and Tommy Shelby just walked back through the door like he never left. Peaky Blinders. The Immortal Man, the long-awaited big-screen continuation of Stephen Knight's globally beloved crime saga, has finally arrived, and it arrives not with a whisper, but with the kind of bone-rattling force that reminds audiences exactly why this franchise became a cultural phenomenon in the first place. Directed by Tom Harper, the film takes the flat-cap mythology built across 6 television series between 2013 and 2022 and stretches it across a cinematic canvas wide enough to match its ambitions. The story picks up in 1940, during Britain's darkest hours of World War II. Tommy Shelby, once the most feared man in Birmingham, now haunts the corridors of a vast, remote mansion, far removed from the cobblestone streets of Small Heath that made him a legend. Cillian Murphy returns to the role with every ounce of his trademark intensity intact, portraying a man suspended somewhere between the living and the dead, literally haunted by the ghosts of his late brother Arthur and his lost daughter Ruby, and quietly working on what he believes will be his final autobiography. He is, as he tells his sister Ada, played by Sophie Rundle, not that man anymore. But history, as it always does, has other plans for Tommy Shelby. The film wastes no time establishing its stakes. An opening sequence cuts sharply between Jewish prisoners at Sachsenhausen concentration camp, being forced to forge British banknotes, and Nazi bombers conducting a devastating raid on Birmingham, specifically the real-life November 1940 bombing of a Birmingham small arms factory in Small Heath, an event Stephen Knight weaves into the film's inciting drama with surgical precision. The sequence is backed by a muscular, seat-rattling score from Anthony Genn and Martin Slattery, featuring new recordings from Grian Chatton, Amy Taylor, and Nick Cave performing a fresh take on the iconic Red Right Hand. It announces immediately that this is not a television movie dressed up for theaters. This is the real thing. The threat pulling Tommy back into the fray arrives through 2 forces. The first is a mysterious and charismatic woman named Cowlo, played by Rebecca Ferguson, who brings word from Birmingham of a situation rapidly spiraling out of control. The second is the situation itself. Tommy's son, Erasmus Shelby, known as Duke, played by Barry Keoghan, has taken command of the Peaky Blinders in his father's absence. Duke's leadership has led the gang deep into treacherous territory. He has struck a secret deal with Beckett, a sinister Nazi fifth columnist played by Tim Roth, agreeing to help distribute Operation Bernhard's counterfeit British currency, a real historical Nazi scheme designed to crash Britain's economy and soften the country for invasion. The irony that Duke, himself of Romani descent, is colluding with a regime that sought to exterminate his own people hangs over the film like smoke. Tommy's return to Birmingham is announced in what may already be one of the most satisfying scenes the franchise has ever produced. Back at the Garrison pub, he walks into a room full of soldiers who have no idea who he is. One of them, loudly and foolishly, sneers the now infamous question, "Who the fuck is Tommy Shelby?" The answer that follows is immediate, unmistakable, and delivered without a single wasted word. It is the kind of scene that reminds you exactly what Cillian Murphy has been doing with this character for over a decade, building a myth so fully realized that even a single cold stare across a bar carries the weight of everything that came before it. Murphy's performance throughout is nothing short of extraordinary. The film demands his full emotional range, asking him to portray a man reckoning simultaneously with decades of wartime trauma, personal loss, fatherly guilt, and a legacy that has outgrown the man himself. He delivers on every count. The scenes between Tommy and Duke are particularly electric, 2 men circling each other across a generational divide, one trying to step out of a shadow he never asked for, the other trying to decide whether that shadow is worth casting one final time. Barry Keoghan brings an unpredictable, coiled energy to Duke that makes every scene with him feel genuinely dangerous, even when the exchanges are quiet. His accent drifts at moments, but his presence never does. Rebecca Ferguson's Cowlo is a worthy addition to the Peaky Blinders tradition of giving its female characters real power, operating several moves ahead of everyone around her, and never reducing herself to the orbit of the men she influences. Tim Roth's Beckett, meanwhile, is a more layered antagonist than his allegiance might suggest, a man whose methods and worldview, while monstrous, share uncomfortable parallels with Tommy's own brutal pragmatism. Returning figures like Sophie Rundle's Ada and Stephen Graham's Hayden Stagg are present and purposeful, though the weight of the film falls on the new additions. Stephen Knight makes a conscious choice to use returning characters in service of the story, rather than as crowd-pleasing cameos, and the discipline it takes to resist that fan service temptation pays off significantly in the film's coherence and emotional stakes. What Knight and Harper have constructed is something that functions both as a genuine standalone war film and as a definitive coda for one of television's most iconic characters. The scale is unambiguous. This is a film that earns its place on a theater screen, not a padded episode squeezed into a feature runtime. The cinematography, the sound design, the sheer physical weight of its wartime Birmingham setting all speak to a production that understood exactly what was being attempted and rose to meet it. Perhaps most impressively, Knight refuses to let the film coast to a safe conclusion. Rather than simply restoring the status quo and sending Tommy Shelby off on a comfortable note, the Immortal Man takes genuine risks with its story, following its characters to places that feel earned rather than expected. The result is something that functions as both a satisfying culmination for longtime fans and a bold declaration that this story still had something left to say. By the time the credits roll, the question the film opens with "Who the fuck is Tommy Shelby?" has been answered more completely than any prior entry in the franchise managed. He is not just a man who survived wars, betrayals, grief, and time. He is what happens when all of those things fuse together in a single human being and refuse to die. And whether this is truly the end of his story or simply the closing of one chapter, Peaky Blinders, The Immortal Man, ensures that the answer to that question will echo for a very long time. So did Tommy Shelby's return live up to everything you were hoping for? Or did the film surprise you in ways you never expected? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Let us know which scene hit hardest. And if you want more coverage of the biggest film and television events as they happen, hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss what comes next.